Jhalak. Welcome to YoungSTARs.
Hi Nandini, glad to be here. Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for taking time out for this. Hello to all the viewers. Today we have with us Jhalak Bansal, and she will be telling us everything there is to know about GMAT or the Graduate Management Admission Test. Let me introduce Jhalak to you with her background. She has done a BTech in biotechnology from NIT Warangal's 2019 batch. And since then, since 2019 to now, she has been working as an analyst at Novartis. She gave GMAT last year and scored 730 out of 800. And she will be joining the PGP program at the Indian School of Business as part of the class of 2023. So, welcome, Jhalak. And it's extra special to have Jhalak here today because she has been a very important part of Reticulum's core team. And now she's here giving back to the community again. So, welcome
Thank you
again.
so much, Nandini. Thanks for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Okay. So, let's get right to it. What exactly is GMAT and where all can we use a GMAT score?
So GMAT is basically a qualification test, right, that you need to give if you're applying for any business school. And mostly it's something similar to GRE, which is most commonly known by people. So it's just like GRE, it's a qualification test. It's just a prerequisites to many of the application processes. And where all you can apply, if I talk about India, then in India there are specific schools like ISB which take admissions through GMAT or GRE. There are other schools as well like SPJ, and there is XLRI, but those might not be the regular MBA programs. You will have to check which all which program are you interested in, and if they accept applicants through GMAT or not. And apart from that, some of the IAMs also take in applications through GMAT, but that is only for the executive MBA program. And apart from that, in abroad, you will find that pretty much most of the business schools do accept applications through GMAT. So, yeah.
So, both Europe and US, or does one of them give more weightage to GMAT than the other? Or
Not really. So you will see that the average score differs from country to
okay,
country or even from business school to business school. But that just depends on the geography and the demographics of the class, right? So for example, in the USA, you might see that it's the range for the top tier business schools might be like an average score of 730 plus 740, 750. Whereas in European business schools, it might be on a lower end, but then it again depends from what business school are you targeting at, and it varies basically. There's no such more importance given to it because it's just one part of your application. And generally most of the business schools they like to look at your profile holistically and not just in numbers of your scores or how you're performed in GMAT.
true. Okay. Okay, so if we talk a little bit about the timeline of the test, how often, how many times a year is it conducted?
So again, this is a test which you can opt for what time of the year do you want to give the test. It's open throughout the year.
Okay.
It's just with the constraint that in a year, in a single year, you can only appear for the test 5 times in a
Okay.
year, and that too with the constraint that there should be a minimum of 16 days gap between your two trials. So let's say if you appear for the test today, you're not happy with the score because you get the score there and then right after you give your exam, you'll get your scores, and you can decide whether you want to accept the score or reject it and whatnot, and then you can reappear for the exams after a minimum of 16 days of gap. But
Okay.
in your lifetime you can only appear for it 8 times.
All
So
right.
that's the limit.
Okay. And how long is your score valid for?
So the score will be valid for 5 years.
Okay.
That's 5 years.
Nice. So what's the marking structure, marking scheme like? What are the sections? And I've heard GMAT is adaptive, so how does that work?
Okay, so I'll start with the marking scheme and the different sections. So we have 4 different sections in the test. One is the quant, the second is the verbal. So these two sections are the ones that make up for your 800 score out of 800 scale.
Okay.
And apart from these two, we also have an AWA, which is analytical writing assessment, and there is also an integrated reasoning. So these are the four different sections, but your scoring out of 800 is only based on verbal and quant, and the remaining two sections are scaled or scored separately. So to
Okay.
give you a gist, I just have to refer my notes because I don't remember exactly. So like quant is scaled from 6 to 51. That is
Okay.
the range of the scale that you are scored on.
Mm-hmm.
And the same is for, I think, verbal and quant both are 6 to 51 of range. The integrated reasoning or IR, that is out of 8. So you get different questions and you are scaled from the scale of 1 to 8.
Okay.
And the last section, which is the analytical writing assessment or AWA, that is again scaled from a different scale and scored from 0 to 6. Right, so that is the different scores, and only the quant and verbal part, those are adaptive. And what it basically means is that the test adapts itself on the level of difficulty based on the responses that you're giving. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say if you have an easy question coming on your screen and you give you response and the answer is correct, then the next question will be probably from a higher difficulty range, maybe let's say medium. If you get that also correct, then probably the next few questions will be from the harder difficulty scale. And let's say
Okay.
if you get it wrong, the hard question wrong, then you will probably get the next question as an easier question
Mm-hmm.
comparatively. So the test tries to adapt itself and finds out what is the range that you lie in. So that is how it works. But just a caveat here that generally what happens is a lot of people, they panic during the test, that once you see a hard question, you can identify that, okay, this is a hard question. You answer it, you think it's correct, but the next question is very easy, and people might panic that, okay, oh shit, maybe the previous question I answered it wrong, that's why I'm getting an easy question this time. So that that not that might not hold true every time, because there are some questions just to test. So there are some dummy questions put into the test, and you can never identify them, which one are the dummy questions. So, I mean, it's totally fine. You need not worry a lot about the difficulty level of the question you're getting during the test or while giving the
Okay.
test.
And you said that AWA and IR are not part of the 800 score. So
Mhm.
what are they for? Are they important or what?
So it depends on college to college, right? There are a lot of business schools which give a lot of importance to, let's say, IR,
Mm-hmm.
because their course is structured in such a way that they want to focus on the integrated reasoning or the reasoning or logical reasoning of the candidates. So they do give a lot of importance to IR or even your writing skills. Apart from that, it also might depend on the type of company you want to sit for or you want to apply for after your MBA, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there are some companies, some of the consultancy companies that might look at a good IR score, and they might prefer you if you have a strong IR score compared to another person who has decently performed in the other topics or other categories, but has not performed very well in IR.
Okay. All right. And what's the duration of the test? Is there something like these many questions in these many minutes or no?
Yes, so there are around 62 minutes, I think, for quant and 65 minutes for verbal. So in quant, you get around roughly 2 minutes per question. So that makes it
Okay.
31 questions.
Mm-hmm.
So you get 31 questions and 62 minutes in quant. For verbal, it's 36 questions, but with 65 minutes. So that means you don't even get complete 2 minutes per question. So that's a caveat there. But apart from these two sections, the remaining two, which is IR and AWA, those are 30 minutes each. So
Mm-hmm.
approximately, you can say around roughly 3 hours.
Okay. Nice. Okay, so as an Indian engineer, which section do you think we should attempt first? Like, is English harder for us because we're good at math, or how does that work? What do you think?
So that is always there. Like as an engineer, you would be more comfortable solving the code questions because we are so used to it. on a day-to-day basis, and verbal is something which might come across as a bit tricky for many of us. But which section to attempt first completely depends on you. Now, different people follow different strategies, and it should always be an individual's choice and not based on what somebody else is saying. Because so one person could be more comfortable attempting the section which they find the toughest, because you get rid of the toughest part first, and then you can focus comfortably on the part that you really like or really enjoy solving. Another set of people could be like, they want to get comfortable with the test, so they attempt the easier section first, what they're more comfortable with, and they leave the once they get into the pace, they think that, okay, I'll get into the pace and then start attempting the questions which I find more tricky. So it depends on you, but I think what really helps is during the preparation, the first initial tests, you could always experiment with the different ordering of the paper, which section you want to attempt first. You could just pick and choose and experiment in the first few tests. And once you identify what works best for you, you could just carry on with it and follow the same in the remaining mock tests that you give.
All right. Are these mock tests available on the GMAT website or something? Or did you buy a test series?
So there is a website called mba.com, which has all the information and material related to GMAT. And once you register for the exam, you also get 2 free official tests, GMAT 1 and 2. So these are free of cost. You don't have to pay anything. And apart from these 2 tests, there are 4 more tests, but for those you need to pay an additional amount. So that will be given on the website. So these are the series of 6 texts, out of which 2 are free. And they are the closest you could get to your actual exam, because it's the official test series, right? And apart from these official tests, there are a lot of institutes, or you can say the education consultancies, which do provide their own test series. Like Kaplan is something which is very popular, and a lot of students do use it and find it very helpful. So that is one thing. And apart from that, personally, I did take some professional help, and I joined a consultancy, like an educational institute, to prepare myself. So I joined Jamboree, and then I took a test series with them as well. So I think the more tests you give, the better it is, whatever source you can get it from.
All right. Other than test series, what other sources are there for preparation?
Other than test series, again, the GMAT official guides are available, and those are like the best source of truth that you can get. Those are the actual GMAT questions from past that you could practice on. So that is definitely there, because any other institute, if you see like other coaching centers that you see, they will also pick and choose questions from the official guide itself. So if you find it comfortable to join, if you think that there is a need to join a coaching center, it's totally up to you. But apart from that, the GMAT official guide should really help you to cover all the different concepts and practice enough to prepare yourself for the test.
Okay, sounds good. So what was your study plan like, and when did you start preparing, and how did you go about it?
Sure. So as I mentioned, that I did take help from Jamboree. So I started with my classes online, which were like 5 days a week. So for about a month, I took these online classes where we were given some assignments and some practice questions to work on. So I used to follow up with them. And after that 1 month of classes, I started for about 1.5 to 2 months. I just did my self-study, where I just kept on practicing different sectional tests, different mock tests, and so on and so forth. So it's just about, I think, consistency and pacing yourself the right way. And one thing which really helped me to prepare during those 2-3 months was that I always used to time whatever questions I was solving, even if it was like just 5 questions, then I would always time myself to see how fast or slow am I going. Because in the end, it all comes down to your pace through the test. Yeah.
And you were also working while you were preparing for GMAT, right? How was it to juggle both of them together? Was it difficult? How did you make time for it?
So again, it comes to your time management skills, right? So I had like a dedicated 8 hours for my work, and I usually used to give the early morning hours around 7 a.m. onwards, like 7 to 10 or something. I used to give for my studies for GMAT, and then once I was complete, like I was done with my work at office, I used to again give an hour or two just to revise my concepts around three
Okay.
to 5 hours on an average per day. I think
Mhm.
that suffices the preparation with around 2-3 months.
Okay. So what's a competitive score for Indian students, both for Indian institutes, say ISB, and also for international universities?
So honestly, it's you can't really come down to a particular number because all these business schools, if you see, they value diversity a lot, and
True.
no matter how well you score, if you're not fitting into the diversity criteria, or if there are some loopholes in your overall profile or application, you
Mm-hmm.
might still be rejected even with a 780 or 790 score. So
Mm-hmm.
that has happened, and there are instances where people with 750 plus score have been rejected for some or the other reason. So
Mm-hmm.
you can't really come down at a number, but like if you look at the website, they do say that at ISP the average is around 720 of GMAT score.
Okay.
But again, it depends a lot on the profile. If you have a really great profile, done some amazing work, then you could be selected even with a lower score,
Okay.
right? And talking about abroad, it's the same thing. They value your overall profile, the holistic profile. But as an international student, plus as an Indian, they would really expect you to have a higher score, especially on the quant and IR side. That is one thing which I have come across a lot
Mm-hmm.
and got to know from a lot of people around me. But yeah, it again depends from college to college and which business school do you want to apply for, and what are their criteria, and what is the class diversity that they're looking at.
Right. Cool. So can you tell us two things that you think you did right and two things that you wish you had changed about your preparation?
Um, the thing that I did right, one I could say was maintaining a consistency
Mm-hmm.
in my preparation, because that's something I felt was very important. Like if you break the flow, it's just like you're going back to square one and you have to start all over again, right? At least it was that way for me. So one
Mm-hmm.
thing was consistency, and the second thing was I tried to give a lot of mock tests before, like the last month, last 3-4 weeks before my actual test. I spent a lot of time in not just giving the tests, but then I used to analyze them in
Right.
very thorough detail. So
Mm-hmm.
analyzing the test is again a very important factor, which a lot of times we tend to ignore because it's very tedious. And if it's a 3 hour test, you might just end up taking like 5 to 6 hours just to analyze it. But
Yeah.
then it worked really, like it worked wonders for me, because when you sit and analyze your test, you might be like, oh shit, this could have been wrong, like why did I do it wrong?
Yeah.
And if a similar question appears on your actual test, you will be like, oh yeah, I know this in just like two
Mm-hmm.
three seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very very important, I think, to analyze the test, and that's something which I was guided by a lot of people, and I think that really helped me do well. Things that I would have done differently, or which I felt I could have done better. One thing was, so the list of colleges, right? So just before sitting for the exam, or like when you're before your GMAT actual test starts, you are taken to a screen where you have to choose the business colleges that you want to apply for.
Okay.
And what happens in GMAT is that your scores are sent to 5 business schools of your choice, the
Okay.
ones that you select in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And for the remaining business schools, you have to pay an extra $70 to $80
Mm-hmm.
just to send your scores.
This is
So
before the test?
yes, so you have to select 5 schools before the test,
Mm-hmm.
and then those your scores will be sent to those 5 business schools. But if you want to apply to a sixth business school, you'll have to pay an extra amount.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I wasn't very well prepared with that list, because I hadn't given that a lot of thought. But then when the time actually came for me to apply to different colleges, I felt that I should have chosen that list in a better way. So that was a judgment mistake that I feel I made, and I could have worked on it in a better way.
Mm.
And I think that is a major thing. And the second thing would be not knowing or not doing your proper research before your GMAT test or before you even decide to appear for the test, right? Like, what are the timelines of different colleges? What are the different programs that I would want to apply to? So I think the timing really matters a lot. So yeah, those
Yeah.
two things I think I could have done a bit better.
Okay. I think this conversation's really taught me so much about GMAT. I think I'll really use it in the future, and I hope our viewers will too. Do you have any final tips for them before we wrap up?
I think I'll just re-emphasize on the same point that we discussed,
Mm-hmm.
that it's very important to have a consistent preparation. Like, you should know once you start preparing, or before you start preparing, you should know what are your target dates and what are you looking at, what programs are you looking at, which schools you want to apply for, and be consistent in your preparation. Like, time management is something which will
Yeah.
come in really handy, especially for the working professionals who are also working and in parallel want to prepare for the test. So I think these are the two things. And the last point would be, give a lot of mock tests, and please, like, do not forget to analyze them. It could be tedious, but then it will pay you in the end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah,
makes no sense to just give the test and not know what you're doing
exactly.
wrong. Yeah.
You'll just keep
Okay.
repeating the same mistakes.
Yeah. So thank you so much, Jhalak, for taking time out for this. Can you ask everybody to like, share, and subscribe?
Definitely. So I hope you all find this video useful, and you could always reach out to the Reticulum community. They're doing some amazing work that you guys should definitely check out. And yes, do like, share, and subscribe the page for more informative videos and content in future. Thank you.
Thank you.